One of the benefits of the science fiction genre is that you can play games with people, time, and place. You can make up new rules as you go along. Star Trek put Abraham Lincoln in deep space in the Savage Curtain. An ancient Roman civilization evolved into a 20th century culture on another planet and bred in circuses. And the god Apollo appeared in Who Mourns for Adonis. 19th century England comes alive far from Earth in Space Quadrant 904. In the Squire of Gothos, a powerful alien called Trelane patterns his life after an English squire. He traps the Enterprise and its crew and begins to play games with them. But the games aren't always fun.
I must say, they make a perfectly exquisite display pair. But I suppose you want them back now.
When Gene called me, I didn't know who Gene was. I knew there was a show called Star Trek. I remember saying to my agent once, get me on that Star Trek thing that they got.
Ah, so you were the captain of these brave lads. My greetings and felicitations, Captain. So good of you and your officers to, drop in. Absolutely smashing.
And when I got the call, he said to me, I've got a great part for you. Bill, I know your work. And I said, well, what is it? What is the part? He said, well, there are a lot of people who don't believe you can do that character. This character. He said it's a part of a kind of an English fop.
Oh, how marvelous.
His name was Trelane, Squire Trelane, retired. And he was a fantastic character. It was very easy for any actor who had had any training to play the Squire of Gothos. I never stated I was the only one that could do it.
Women? Do you mean that you actually have members of the fairer sex among your crew? Oh, how charming.
I thought of any number of actors that I would emulate that would be back of my mind that played these types of characters. The character was so well written, and of course it was the show.
Oh, this is better than I'd planned.
When you're doing something like that, you have to remember that you're wearing the clothes of the period, so you have to have a kind of a... I took a thing once, I remember, at the theater wing called Styles of Acting, where you'd wear these kinds of costumes, and that's when my training came in handy. And it was just a great role. I mean, it was hard to lose on that role.
I object to you.
Oh, Mr. Spock, you do have one saving grace after all. You're ill-mannered. The human half of you, no doubt.
Now, if you were really bad, it could cause you irreparable harm, but it was just a great part. I mean, it was sensational. I'll never forget it.
The censors sometimes exerted a heavy hand over Star Trek scripts. This episode, The Squire of Gothos, is a typical example of what was thought good and proper for viewers. Remember, it was the late 1960s. In spite of the pill and anti-war demonstrations and body painting, there was a tight rein on what we would see and hear on television. For example, there were no extended physical conflicts between Kirk and Trelane to establish Trelane's invulnerability. The script called for a saber to be passed through his body. Not acceptable. So the network, find another device to accomplish this. In the end, the guilty must be punished. And NBC wanted dialogue to assure the audience that Trelane would suffer the consequences of his actions.
And now, Captain James Kirk, you stand accused of the high crime of treason against a superior authority, conspiracy, and the attempt to foment insurrection.
Gene Coon did something that I thought was marvelous. When I got the part of the Squire, I was taken over to get the wig for the court scene. My picture, and it was described in the script, was of an English barrister who wore a wig that was like a little napkin curled up.
Prisoner may approach the bench.
They started that scene late in the day of me as the judge. And they call for the wig. And the makeup person comes over, opens up the box and takes out a wig and puts it on, and I look like an old Shirley Temple.
Uncalled for.
It was a French period wig, you know, very curly and full, and I immediately told him, you got the wrong wig.
You are guilty. On all counts, you are guilty.
And I remember Bill, it was late in the day, he'd been working this off, and he came over and he said, Bill, what difference does it make? Nobody's going to know that. I said, it does have a difference to me. I said, it's not only difference in the acting that I would do, but it isn't right. We debated a little bit, and they called Gene Coon's office. Gene Coon came over.
Silence!
He says, Campbell's right. Get the right wig. Shoot something else. We'll pick it up later.
I've had enough of your games. Oh, the absurdity of these inferior beings.
He wanted to keep it right. Both he and Roddenberry had that great thing about the thing had to be feasible, had to be right. And I liked that.
Enterprise.
Captain Kirk.
You must try harder, Captain. This is too easy.
William Campbell, who played the part of Trelane, appeared in The High and the Mighty and Battle Cry. He returned to Star Trek as Koloth, the Klingon captain, in what may be the funniest Star Trek episode, The Trouble with Tribbles. By the way, that familiar object you saw in Trelane's castle was the full-body costume of the salt vampire from the episode titled The Man Trap. We used it to cut our costs and fill up the set. At Star Trek, we were even ahead of our time when it came to recycling.
The Squire of Gothos is a story about power. Power is the goal of our lives. It may disguise itself as money or fame or success or even love, but it all comes down to power. After all, what is money but the power to buy what you want? What is success but the power to choose your own path and destiny? And what is love but the power that makes you protect the ones you care for? Power, wielded correctly with logic and discipline, can be a force of tremendous good. But power wielded without discipline, without logic, can also be a force of destruction. There's an interesting continuity mistake in this episode. Trelane states that he's been studying the Earth of 9 centuries ago, but he describes events that took place in the early 18th century. That would place Star Trek in the 27th century, not in the 23rd, where it belongs. One of the reasons for this was that at this early point in the series, the Star Trek universe was not clearly defined. References were constantly changing. In one episode, the Enterprise was part of Starfleet. In another, it was part of the United Space Probe Agency. Later in the series, things would settle into the pattern that we've come to know. If the voice of Trelane's father sounds familiar, it's because it was provided by the man behind Mr. Scott, Jimmy Doohan. Trelane's mother's voice was provided by Barbara Babcock. Both Jimmy and Barbara would provide many other character voices over the course of Star Trek's 3 seasons, and Barbara would be seen on screen in A Taste of Armageddon and in the 3rd season episode, Plato's Stepchildren.